What?
Well, sorry for the hiatus that we had. We were originally planning on recording Tuesday. However, nothing came. And we were looking and we were searching for news, something worth talking about. There wasn't really anything. We weren't going to sit here and talking about Keyshawn Davis. Nothing against Keyshawn Davis, but he's just not at that level yet. There just really wasn't much. There was a lot of rumors speculating, which when those rumors become confirmed, we'll definitely talk about it. However, this is as best as we're going to get to boxing news. And I do think it's pretty important. Terence Crawford, Sebastian Fundora, two champions in the 154-pound division. Well, the WBO has now officially ordered that Sebastian Fundora defend his WBC and WBO super welterweight championships against Terence Crawford, and they have 30 days to agree on a deal, and then the purse bids will start. Here's my problem, okay? I got a few problems with this, all right? And I'm going to get deeper into them as this episode progresses. But Errol Spence and Sebastian Fundora. We announced this on May 25th. It has been a few months, Breezy. We announced this on May 25th that those two were fighting, but there wasn't a date. There was a place, Dallas. There was a month, October, but there just wasn't a date. And we thought we were going to get Errol Spence, Sebastian Fundora. We really liked that matchup. We thought that the winner of that was going to get Terence Bud Crawford. That was the whole thing, that the winner of that was going to fight Terence Crawford because he was the mandatory. Now, all of a sudden, it just seems like the WBO ordered Terence Crawford to cut right in front of that matchup and to fight Sebastian Fundora. Now, what annoys me so much is I get it. Terence Crawford laid a beating on Errol Spence Jr. Okay, we hear it a million times. It's one of the saddest things for an Errol Spence fan to see. I don't believe after one loss your career is over. They say that Terence Crawford mentally hurt Errol Spence and he can't recover. Well, Errol Spence is trying to get back into the ring. However, I don't understand what the whole layoff is. I don't understand why we're dragging this along than what it needs to be. If there's not a fight between Sebastian Fundora and Errol Spence, then say that. If there's something that they know and we don't, then that's one thing. But let's not keep dragging this along. It's either you pick a date or you don't. It's that simple. And I'm just saying this right now. When it was set, there should have been a date already. I mean, you had October, you had in Dallas. You couldn't pick a random date. I mean, it's getting ridiculous. Now, that probably forced the WBO to step in and be like, hey, look, you don't got a date. We're going to have to order you to fight Terence Crawford early. I don't agree with that either, though. I think you got to kind of give that some time. Now, we're almost into September. We got 2 more days until we hit September, and there's still not a date. We need to see a date. So it's crazy because I don't think Terence Crawford wants to fight Errol Spence, and I'm not saying he's afraid of Errol Spence. That's not what I'm saying, but I just don't think he has any interest in fighting Errol Spence again. Errol Spence, I think deep down in his heart, he still wants to fight Terence Crawford, but I think what's more important to him is becoming a 154-pound champion. And I think that if Terence Crawford kind of cuts in and takes that fight from him, I don't think Errol Spence recovers. I don't think not recovers as far as career wise, but I don't think he has a lot of room to become a 154-pound champion unless he fights the winner of Tim Tszyu and Murtaza Aliyev. That's the only other way I can see him becoming a 154-pound champion. However, all I'm gonna say is this: I don't understand why there's not a date. I don't understand why they had everything figured out but a date, and I don't understand why they haven't even announced a date. That's the problem. There needs to be a date in order for that Earl Spence fight to happen. There has to be a date, and if there's not, then what are we doing here? We're just wasting our time. I do want to say that the tweet was from Michael Benson, and technically the source is the WBO, I guess you would say, but overall, Brazy, before I continue into this, I just want to get your thoughts on not the matchup, but the situation in itself between Terence Crawford, Sebastian Fundora, and possibly the question I would like to ask you is, do you think Errol Spence and Sebastian Fundora will happen, or do you think it's long gone?
I knew right away when Spence hopped in the ring after Fundora and Tim Tszyu happened. I kind of had a feeling that they was going to try to, you know, some way try to push for Spence and Crawford too, or at least maybe Spence and the winner of Tim Tszyu and Sebastian Fundora. But here's my thing, right? With Earl Spence Jr., okay, what what I'm concerned about is, does he have a trainer? I agree with everything you said, Mark. I just personally, does anybody know if he has a trainer? Look, I'm not here to get into the whole fiasco what he had with Derrick James. How y'all feel about this? How y'all feel about that? That's a different time for a different episode. But what I'm saying is, does he have a trainer right now? That's one question I need the answer to. Other thing is, I don't like how they're trying to bypass Earl Spence Jr. Of course, yes, like, and maybe I guess this was Terence Crawford's way of kind of getting what he wanted, because the moment when Earl Spence hopped in the ring, Crawford went on Twitter and was like, "You had your chance, get to the back of the line." I guess you could say it's favors pickings, it's hands pickings. 1 minute it was Earl Spence Jr., the next minute it's Terence Crawford. The boxing game is constantly changing up. Fighters is constantly changing up. This matchups is constantly getting changed around. I don't know why it was taking this long, but as far as I'm concerned, like Mario said, it was like since what, May? Y'all, that was my birthday month. We're literally finna be in September. We heard Dallas, 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 yet, but we didn't hear a date. What was going on? Was Earl not ready? Was Earl not fully recovered? Does Earl not have a trainer? There's a lot of questions, and I don't feel like not even one of them has been answered. So when you look at the situation, I'm kind of not surprised that they're trying to push for Fundora and Crawford. I'm not surprised. But at the same time, though, if you do that, what about Spence? What about Spence's 154 debut? Who is he going? You gonna throw him in there with Tim Tszyu? It's so many questions need to be answered. What happened between Sebastian Fundora and Earl Spence Jr. that led to this twist? Now, obviously, we kind of already knew that whoever won out of Tim Tszyu and Sebastian Fundora was going to obviously be elevated, and obviously we knew Earl Spence was going to gun for that. But at the same time, though, you still had Crawford and his situation with Madrimov, which he took care of business of. Whether you feel he didn't or did not, we already had that episode, been there, done that, wore the shirt and burned it. Okay, but it is kind of confusing though. But what I want to know, and if anybody in the comment section know, please let me know, because I don't know. Does Earl Spence currently have a trainer? Does he have a team? Has Earl been trained? Has there been any kind of situation where there was something physically going on? Because look, the guy, like I said, he's had wrecks back to back to back to back. He's had eye surgery. Then he got in the ring with Crawford and he got dominated. So it's got to be something. It's just weird how this sudden thing has just changed. The fight that was supposed to be made was Earl Spence Jr. and Sebastian Fundora. The Titan Tower and the Big Fish was supposed to be made. Okay? I'm just asking, what happened? If y'all know, please let us know, because this is really confusing.
Know that there are a couple clips of Errol Spence training. He's doing some pad work, and they're saying that guy who's holding the pads is his new trainer. I don't know about all that. I don't know who his new trainer is. I tried looking it up as Breezy was talking, and there wasn't a real logistic answer. It keep popping up. The only thing that popped up was the whole situation with him and Derrick James, which at this point they just need to resolve that situation. Like they just got to resolve whatever that is. So that's a big problem right there. However, regardless of that, the only way you can fix this, and I'm gonna say this, here's one way you could fix it. Sebastian Fundora can either take the fight with Terence Crawford and we can postpone the Errol Spence fight to a later day. Well, here's the thing. Even if he takes that fight with Crawford and Crawford beats Fundora like we think he's going to, Errol Spence ain't going to get a shot at any of those 154-pound titles besides the one between Tim Tszyu and Murtaza Lia. Terence Crawford has no interest in fighting Errol Spence. It seems like Errol Spence is losing interest in fighting Terence Crawford, but I do still think he wants to get that get back. And I think that's just not the biggest priority for Errol Spence right now. The best way that I would like to see Fundora do this is tell the WBO, piss off. All right, you can take your belt. I'm gonna take the WBC belt that I earned from Tim Tszyu, or some people are gonna put quotations on that earned because of the cut, but that's a different story. Basically, take your WBC belt, go fight Errol Spence, come up with an actual date to where we can actually see this fight instead of just saying it's gonna happen somewhere around October. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know what day that could be. There's 31 days in October. Pick one. It doesn't matter. If you want to have a fight in October, pick a day and get the fight done. If you don't want to have it in October, postpone it, reschedule it, and then let Fundora do whatever he wants to do. I'm gonna say this right now: the ball is in Fundora's court. Okay, Terence Crawford is chasing after his WBO and his WBC championship. Now, if he decides Fundora that he's not going to defend the WBO championship, they're just going to strip him. Now, obviously, we know how boxing is. Usually, when a guy has multiple titles, they do a unification bout. That's fine. So his WBC belt and the WBO belt will be on the line. But if he decides, hey, look, screw the WBO, you can keep your belt, he'll drop it. Terence Crawford will fight somebody else for it, which maybe we'll possibly get to see Bud versus Virgil Ortiz for that belt. Maybe we'll get to see maybe a rematch between him and Madrimov, him versus Jermell Charlo. That's highly unlikely. But regardless, I mean, there's matchups you can make. We talked about how many matchups you can make in the 154-pound division. But what I would like to see is Sebastian Fundora just drop the WBO belt and challenge and then have that fight with Errol Spence, pick a day and get it done. Because I still believe that that fight's going to happen. Something's telling me that fight is going to happen. It's just really weird and really fishy that they still don't have a date. But I do believe that fight is going to still happen. The reason why I still believe is because we're seeing Errol Spence back into the ring. We're seeing, some training footage of him. We haven't heard anything from Earl Spence saying that that fight won't happen. And the crazy thing is this, okay? Earl Spence is a bigger name than Sebastian Fundora. Sebastian Fundora said this fight's still happening. We just need to pick a day. If Sebastian Fundora really felt like this fight was not going to happen, I truly believe he would have said something against Earl Spence, like he's the one that's not making the day. Tell Earl Spence to give me a contract so we can sign it. He would have said something along the ranges of that. We know how boxers are. When things don't go their way, they blame the other guy. When fights are not being made, they go blame the other guy. So because Sebastian Fundora has just said the fight's happening, we just haven't picked the day, and because in this case, I do believe Errol Spence is the A side, even though he's not champion. I mean, where's the fight taking place? Dallas. I don't think if it was up to Sebastian Fundora, I don't think he picks Dallas. So I do believe Errol Spence is the A side, and I believe because of Sebastian Fundora's statement, I do think that this fight is still going to happen. I have a good feeling it will. But you got to pick a date already. I mean, we're almost into September and there's still not a date. Just pick a later date in October, get it done. If you don't want to have it in October, postpone it and let Sebastian Fundora do whatever he wants to do. But Sebastian Fundora, the ball is in his court. He's got a choice, either Crawford or Spence. Pick one. And he's got all the control. So Crawford and Spence, they're gonna have to wait. But I truly do hope that he picks Spence, and I hope we get to see that fight. And hopefully, if Earl Spence is healthy, if he looks really good against Sebastian Fundora, if he beats Fundora, we get to see Spence versus Crawford too. This is a situation we announced this in May, and already it's been almost 3 months, and we still haven't gotten a date. So it is definitely a really fishy, and I can understand why a lot of fans are very skeptical about that fight being made, and I understand why a lot of fans believe that Errol Spence is done, believe that this fight's not going to happen, believe that he should just move and step aside so Crawford and Sebastian Fundora can get it on. But I do believe that Errol Spence still got a little bit left in the tank. And overall, I do believe that Errol Spence, I don't think he's done yet, man. I still think he's got a little bit left in the tank, and I believe that he can prove it against Sebastian Fundora, and I want him to prove it against Sebastian Fundora. And if he wants to continue fighting, if he's healthy enough to fight, I believe they should make that fight happen.
I agree. I mean, you ain't got much left to go for. I mean, you solidified your name at 147. You trying to make your debut at 154. I mean, test the waters. There's nothing wrong with that. Get back into that name column, get back into the big picture column, get back into the title column. And what better way to do that against going up against a tall, lengthy guy like Fundora, who can present you many problems with reach and range, and not only that too, but somebody like Fundora is a debut fight for you that can help you in the long run if you can get past Fundora.
It's not a debut fight for him at 154. He's had a couple fights at 154, but this is his debut championship fight. I believe. I believe, yeah, we get what you're saying. He hasn't fought in 154 pounds that much. He is returning to 154 pounds, so that is something worth mentioning. But it is definitely a big challenge for him. I believe Sebastian Fundora is a big challenge for anybody. And the only reason why didn't want to talk about the matchup between Terence Crawford and Fundora is because we want to save something for when it gets confirmed and our thoughts on that matchup alone. Obviously, we talked a little bit about it, but we want to get into full depth when that gets confirmed or if that gets confirmed. But overall, man, to cap it off, I got one more question for you. How do we resolve this issue? What would you suggest be the outcome to resolving it? Do you think Sebastian Fundora should be like, okay, let me go defend these belts against Terence Crawford and make it a unification bout? Or should he say, you know what, screw the WBO, let's go after Errol Spence Jr.? In these next 30 days, what should Sebastian Fundora decide?
I mean, I don't know. In 2024, I feel like if you let the boxer choose, I mean, it just brings a lot more complications in the hell. So I mean, me personally, I would say I would take it to the hands of them and be like, hey, look, just make for Earl Spence Jr. and the winner gets Crawford. That's what I would do. But if it's Sebastian Fundora, I guess take the belt route. I mean, I guess why not? I mean, you're trying to go ahead and go ahead and get all the belts going. I mean, I guess go after the guy with the belt and not the guy without the belt. But if it's me saying, I'm like, hey, man, go ahead and get up in there with Earl right quick. You let Crawford get his little break or let him stay active or whatever Crawford chooses to do. And then whoever wins out of Spence and Fundora, you let him get in there with Crawford.
I just want them to both sit down together in the same room. If you can't do that, the same phone call, and you say, hey, look, this is what we want to do. I got a contract right here. We can set up a contract and get it done without us being like, oh, well, let's add this in or let's do this and that. No, let's stop being around the bush. There's 31 days in October. Pick a day. And if you don't want it in October, I'm going to say it one more time, postpone it. But the ball is not in Crawford's court. It's not in Errol Spence's court. It's not even in the WBO's court. The ball is in Sebastian Fundora's court. He has the choice. He gets to pick. And unfortunately, whatever the choice is, the other person's gonna have to, take it and accept it. But there's no reason why this fight with Errol Spence shouldn't have been made. And what you said was exactly what the plan should have been. It was what we thought it was gonna be. Errol Spence, Sebastian Fundora fights. The mandatory was Terence Crawford. Winner gets the mandatory and Terence Crawford. That's a perfect plan. But we're not getting a date for Earl Spence Jr. and Sebastian Fundora. So now all of a sudden the WBO has to step in. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm not even mad at the WBO for stepping in, really. I'm not mad at it. I mean, if you go 3 months without having a date for a fight and we're almost 1 month away from the fight, what are they supposed to do? You know what I'm saying? We just supposed to wait till October comes and then make a decision. This should be pressure on Sebastian Fundora to contact Errol Spence, have his team contact Spence's team and be like, look, we got to do something. Are you ready or not? Because if not, I'm going to go take that fight with Crawford. But if he is ready, pick a day. That's all I got to say. And unless you got anything to add, Breezy, then I mean, we just got to wrap it up here. You know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, this is another perfect example of boxing politics. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I like to say, boxing politics might be more corrupt than the actual politics going on in this country. Just kidding. That's a whole different drama show. We're not ever gonna get paid to cover that crap. So I know Breezy wanted to say something. You got something to say, Breezy? He what? You gonna hold off?
He ain't lying.
Hey, look, it's pretty boxing politics is a good number two. It's a good number two for that. I mean, if we really looking at it, there's just so many things in boxing that I wish could be fixed. But unfortunately, we got to deal with the BS, the soap opera, and the whole drama show between boxing and boxers itself and companies and promoters and all the BS. And then the judges get in and then the referees get in. It's a whole drama show. It's a whole corrupt political issue. And I just wish it would change. But that's not going to happen anytime soon. It's been like this for years and years and years. So we just got to take the good with the bad. So, with that being said, look, y'all know what to do. For y'all who haven't even watched us or this is your first time watching us, we appreciate you guys for clicking and make sure you guys continue to tune into the Puncher's Point. Make sure you guys continue to tune in. The reason why is because if you guys truly want to be boxing fans, if you guys are boxing fans, if you guys are advanced boxing fans, this is the place you want to be. We give you everything that you could possibly ask for. Breezy, do you want to say something?
Yes, I want y'all to pre-order Undisputed so I can stomp y'all out come October 10th. It's only right that y'all get this work. And when I mean this work, I mean this faithful heavenly work. I ain't doing it to be evil. I'm doing it because I believe in you spare the rod, you spoil the child. Y'all are some children, and I don't want to spare the rod. So pre-order Undisputed so I can step on y'all. The end.
And I'm not gonna lie to you, some of these matchups they're never gonna happen. So the only way you're gonna see them is on Undisputed. So with that being said, look, if y'all are new to boxing, if y'all are, slowly like dipping your toes in the water with boxing, if you guys have been watching boxing all your entire life, you guys are true fans, regardless of where you're at. All right. We don't discriminate, we don't judge. We're gonna try to give you the best education possible. We're gonna try to help you guys and get you guys ready for all these big fights. We're gonna get you guys ready with all the news. That is why you should be staying on point with the Puncher's Point.